In prison, people from various backgrounds and with different crimes mix. Some are seen as worse than others, causing hatred and fights. Sadly, even among inmates, certain individuals like child molesters face severe outcomes. When their crimes are known, they're targeted and often meet a tragic end. This sad truth is clear from cases where 20 child molesters in jail were quickly and violently attacked by other prisoners. The prison situation shows how strong feelings about certain crimes lead to a tough and aggressive atmosphere. Number 20. John Geoghegan. A former Catholic priest, John Geoghegan was central to a Catholic church abuse scandal. Born on June 4, 1935 in Boston, he became a priest in 1962. Serving in various Massachusetts parishes, he was removed in 1993 due to child abuse allegations. In 2002, Boston Globe's Spotlight team revealed that church officials, including Cardinal Bernard Law, allowed Geoghegan to continue despite abuse reports. Geoghegan was convicted, imprisoned, and killed by an inmate, Joseph Drews, in 2003. Number 19. David Bobb and Graham DeLewis Conta. 41-year-old Jonathan Watson believed he was helping by attacking and killing inmates David Bobb and Graham DeLewis Conta. These two had hurt a 14-year-old girl and upset others in prison. Watson got upset when David Bobb watched a kids' show, leading to an argument. Watson used a walking cane to seriously hurt David Bobb and then attacked Conta too. He confessed to prison officials, who initially doubted him until they saw the injuries. Bobb died en route to the hospital, Conta 3 days later. Number 18. Richard Huckle, a pedophile, built a fan base by sharing gory images and recordings of his violent sexual acts with children. He was arrested and found guilty of 71 offenses against 22 children, ranging from sexual assault to rape. Many of the crimes were committed in Malaysia, where Huckle had been living for several years. He had posed as a Christian teacher and photographer to gain access to vulnerable children and shared images and videos of his abuse on the dark web. Huckle's crimes were so horrific that he was given 22 life sentences. However, he was found dead in his prison cell at HMP Full Sutton in October of 2019, subjected to over an hour of torture and abuse by fellow inmate Paul Fitzgerald. Number 17. Theodore Dyer. John Geoghegan, a former priest, played a major role in a Catholic church scandal involving sexual abuse. Born on June 4, 1935 in Boston, he became a priest in 1962. After allegations of abuse, he was removed from ministry in 1993. The Boston Globe's 2002 investigation revealed how church officials allowed him to continue despite reports. Geoghegan was convicted of child abuse, imprisoned, and in 2003, he was tragically killed by another inmate. Number 16. Deander Austin. At Mule Creek State Prison, Deander Austin, a 46-year-old serving life for serial rape and abuse of minors, was killed by his cellmate on October 14, 2020. Having assaulted his nieces in Richmond, Austin faced swift prison action after an alarm. Despite efforts to revive him, he died within an hour. Cellmate Rodney Jordan, convicted for robbery, was suspected in the attack. Jordan, previously incarcerated, had unclear motives. He was isolated for investigation until its conclusion. Number 15. Roy Whiting. In 1995, Roy Whiting abducted, sexually assaulted, and murdered 8-year-old Sarah Payne. While she played with her siblings in a cornfield, Whiting took her in his van. Her body was found after 17 days. In 2000, he received a 40-year sentence and was held in Wakefield Prison, protected from harm. However, in 2018, Richard Prendergast and Kevin Hayden attacked him in an attempted murder. Other inmates cheered as they brutally assaulted Whiting with weapons. The attackers, both serving life sentences for murder, were only stopped by prison officers using batons and a nurse's intervention. Number 14. Christian Mayer. Born on June 4, 1935, in Boston, John Geoghegan, a defrocked priest, became a focal point of the Catholic Church abuse scandal. Following abuse allegations, he was defrocked in 1993. In 2002, Boston Globe's reporting exposed how church officials enabled his continued service. Geoghegan was convicted of abuse, imprisoned, and murdered by an inmate in 2003. The incident underscored inmate safety issues and the assailant's troubling background. Number 13. Leonard Nelson. A 28-year-old serving time for aggravated burglary and sexual exploitation of minors was found dead in his cell in June 2016. Initially thought to be a suicide, further investigation revealed that his cellmate, Daniel Smith, had murdered him. Both were housed in a facility for misbehaving inmates, but no one expected such a violent act. Smith, serving time for burglary and theft, will likely spend more time in jail for the murder. The details of the killing remain unknown, but it's believed that a scuffle broke out after an argument. Number 12. David or C.S. Ramirez. David Oges Ramirez's heinous crime of molesting an 11-year-old girl landed him a life sentence in 2013. But his fate took a dark turn when he was murdered in August 2019 while being remanded at Duval County Jail in Jacksonville, Florida. The killer, Paul Dixon, was serving time for murder and had been in custody since he was 17. The two were housed on the top floor of the prison, reserved for the most violent offenders. Ramirez's death was a revenge killing, likely linked to his record as a child sex offender. Dixon refused to speak to officials and demanded a lawyer. Number 11. Clinton Don Simpson. He was a preacher at Hazlitt Church of Christ and ran a children's train station on his property. Despite being trusted by many, he had sexually assaulted multiple children. His actions came to light when a 3-year-old reported an incident. After investigations, he faced numerous charges but wasn't fit for trial for almost a decade due to treatment. In 2010, an inmate killed him before he could stand trial. The cause of death was head injuries. Number 10. Mitchell Harrison. His life was plagued by violent tendencies from a young age, despite his stable family background. At just 23, he was serving time for raping a 13-year-old girl when he was brutally murdered by fellow inmates Nathan Mann and Michael Pear. The pair claimed Harrison had bragged about his crime, leading them to carry out a gruesome attack. Mann and Pear were already serving life sentences for other murders. Number 9. David Keever. He was sentenced to prison in 1996 for child abuse offenses committed in 1994. After being released in 2009, he was rearrested in 2010 for failing to register as a sex offender. In July 2019, he was killed by another inmate, Jimmy Ray Carruthers, who strangled him and stomped on his throat. Both Keever and Carruthers were sex offenders. Carruthers was charged with second-degree murder and given a life sentence. It's a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurk behind bars. Number 8. Juan Villanueva. In a shocking turn of events, Villanueva, a convicted child predator, was found dead in his cell in February 2023. His cellmate, Ramon Escobar, who had already been serving a life sentence for multiple murders, was responsible for the attack. Escobar had gone on a killing spree before being apprehended by the police. The details of how he killed Villanueva remain unclear, but it is known that he was a brutal killer who used heavy weapons to bludgeon his victims while they slept. The incident has sparked an investigation, and Escobar has been moved to restricted housing as authorities try to determine what happened and possibly charge him for his crime. Number 7. Liam Dean. Liam Dean, a man from Wakefield, West Yorkshire, was convicted of murdering his 2-day-old daughter, Luna, in July 2017. During his trial, it was revealed that he subjected Luna to a sustained assault while her mother was sleeping. Dean initially denied responsibility for the attack, but later confessed to the murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, but was killed by his cellmate, John Westland, who claimed he thought Dean was a sex offender. Number 6. Robert Munger. The odds of being placed in the same cell as your sister's abuser are pretty slim, but Shane Goldsby defied them. His cellmate was none other than Robert Munger, serving 43 years for child molestation and rape. Goldsby was in for fleeing police and ramming a patrol car. After killing Munger, he was given a 24-year sentence. Goldsby tried to get a new cellmate, but when Munger began describing his crimes, Goldsby snapped and beat him to death. Number 5. Jason Turnbull. Turnbull met his death at the Saginaw Correctional Facility. Serving time for third-degree sexual criminal conduct, he was killed by fellow inmate Timothy Dickerson, who was serving time for armed robbery. The altercation's cause remains unknown, but it's speculated that Turnbull's criminal record may have played a role. Dickerson's chance of release was dashed as he was found guilty of murder and given an additional 20 years. The incident sparked an investigation, revealing a physical altercation between the two inmates. Number 4. Nicholas Anderson. Rocky Ali Beeman went on a mission to rid the world of sex offenders, and Nicholas Anderson was his third victim. Found strangled and slashed in his cell, Beeman had previously declared his hatred for sex offenders and vowed to continue killing them until he was placed on death row. He even wrote a letter to a judge, claiming that killing sex offenders was the best feeling he had in a long time. Beeman had already killed a registered sex offender in 2012, and reports suggest he stabbed him as many as 80 times. Number 3. Matteo Condalucci. Despite serving time for child molestation, he was targeted by self-proclaimed nemesis and murdered after leaving jail. His killer, James Fairbanks, shot him 7 times, ending his life on the spot. The aftermath of the incident sparked a nationwide controversy, with some supporting Fairbanks' actions and others condemning them. Matteo's daughter, Amanda Henry, even revealed that she had been repeatedly abused and molested by her father. In the end, Fairbanks was sentenced to 40 to 70 years in prison for his crime. Number 2. Charles Parker. In a shocking case of justice, Charles Parker, a registered sex offender, was killed by a couple who pretended to have car trouble before attacking him and his wife in their home. Parker had been convicted twice for sexual offenses against children. The couple, Jeremy and Christine Moody, were caught thanks to home surveillance footage and were sentenced to life in prison. However, their remorse quickly turned to a disturbing celebration of their crime, claiming that sex offenders deserved to die. Number 1. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, a wealthy American financier, was a convicted sex offender accused of heinous crimes involving underage girls. Despite being investigated in 2005, he was only indicted in 2008 and served a mere 13 months in jail. In 2019, he was arrested again on charges of sex trafficking and conspiracy, but was found dead in his cell before trial. While officially ruled a suicide, many speculate that his reputation as a child sex offender would have made him a target in prison. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned with us for the upcoming videos.